Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Monday, January 6th, 2020. I am Dave Biddle, very happy joined by Steve Helwagen. Steve, Shaun Wade coming back is absolutely huge. We'll get to what the defensive backfield might look like for the Buckeyes in 2020 along with Mr. Shaun Wade, but him coming back, absolutely huge. If you would have asked me at the end of the season, I would have said, unfortunately, I think his last play is going to be that BS targeting call. He never should have been ejected for a play like that, and I thought that might be the end of his career, but I think by the time, Saturday rolled around, a lot of it had leaked out, but still, in general, if you would have asked me, right after the season, I thought Shaun Wade was gone, so it was a very pleasant surprise, and it's just huge news for the Buckeyes.
I agree 100%, Dave. I think that you get a guy back who's an all-Big Ten potential All-American type player like Shaun Wade. He could have the kind of impact that Jeff Okudah had perhaps, this coming season. And that can't be understated because they had moved to basically a 3-cornerback rotation with one safety. And if you don't have one cornerback, it's hard to have three. And so him coming back, you would assume in most cases they're going to put him at least until some other guys earn their stripes. He's going to be on the top receiver, and then erase that player, and then you go from there. You'll have Sevyn Banks and Amir Reep and Cameron Brown all right there, next in line, maybe a Tyreek Johnson if he ever gets healthy, and then whoever else they bring in. But I am very interested in seeing this defense with Shaun Wade in 2020. It could be night and day as to what it could have been, just because you have a frontline corner who can lock people down, and then you build around that from there. It just changes everything in terms of the pass rush and everything else, the linebackers' responsibilities and everything else. So, yeah, I think it means a lot.
Yeah, it's tremendous. I mean, he absolutely, could have turned pro and would have been a second-day draft pick, in my opinion, meaning second round or third round. But he wants to work his way, and maybe he could have been a first-round pick. I know there's some people out there who are projecting him as a first-rounder. But he wants to come back and be like a top 15 pick. He wants to come back. His father, and I love this. He's now the spotlight player on defense, and I think that was a big selling point for him to return. I'm sure Ryan Day would have been silly not to sell that, Steve. That hey, Chase Young's not going to be here, Jeff Okudah's not going to be here. All these guys, you're going to be like our star guy. You're going to be the guy we market on defense. Justin Fields' offense, Shaun Wade, former 5-star, former number 1 corner in the country, or number 2 corner. Okay, I guess Okudah was the number 1 corner in that unbelievable 2017 class that they signed, and they still have two of the 5 stars, with Baron Browning coming back as well. But let's dig deeper on let's dig a little deeper on who might line up with Wade. I think Sevyn Banks is probably most likely to be the other corner, and they're going to use Cameron Brown a lot. So Wade, and they can move Wade around, which is great. I think they're going to have Wade and Banks as a starter with Cameron Brown kind of as a pseudo starter there, depending on if they're a nickel or how many DBs they have. Safety is a little tougher, Steve. I think Amir Reep, Josh Proctor is a guy who I'd like to see start, but Marcus Hooker started to come on. You touched on that a little bit already, but who do you think is going to be, if you had to guess right now, who do you think is going to be the 4 starters in the secondary for the Buckeyes?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think you have to decide with Reep. He did fill in at cornerback out of necessity. Is his better spot to play safety, and it very well could be. I think some of that will be how well Sevyn Banks does, Cam Brown if he's ready to go. So I think you have some variables there. I think you have to be very excited about turning the new leaf. Basically, in the secondary, you lost Jeff Hafley as well. I know we're going to get into coaching a little bit here in just a second, but I think that you got to determine where Reep is going to be most beneficial. I think Proctor is obviously the top choice at safety. There's no question about that. And then Marcus Hooker probably after him. and we'll see after that. But again, those guys, what's interesting, Dave, and this is something I've said repeatedly, is you can't understate the fact that Ohio State blew everybody they played out for the most part all season long, and those guys were playing 30 to 40% of the snaps. And that happened across the board. I mean, they were playing wholesale backups, late second quarter, most of the third quarter, nearly every game they played. So, to me, I think you can't understate the fact that guys have at least played, and now it's a matter of fine-tuning their game and getting them to be caliber where Ohio State can win another Big Ten championship. So, to me, I think it's very exciting heading into the 2020 season.
It really is. It just puts a whole new face on the defense with Shaun Wade coming back. I mean, it just with their losses up front on the D-line, and they're going to be able to reload on the defensive line to a certain extent, but having him back just kind of solidifies that defense. Yeah, and let's get into the Kerry Coombs conversation. The Tennessee Titans just keep messing this up by doing things like winning, including winning Charlie Sheen. Knocking off the New England Patriots. So good for Mike Vrabel, out Belichicking Belichick, which was really cool to see, and Kerry Coombs moving on for another week. All this means out there, listeners, is you're going to have to wait an extra week. I mean, think about how you've heard nothing else. Nothing else. No names have been floated out there. They're just waiting to do this the right way. Kerry Coombs will be the defensive back coach at Ohio State. I have no doubt about that. And they're just waiting until the Titans get eliminated from the playoffs. I think that's just a gentleman's agreement they have. They're not going to do anything public until then. That's what I'm hearing, Steve. Kerry Coombs, to me, I think he is definitely on his way as soon as the Titans get eliminated. Maybe they'll win the Super Bowl, though. Who knows?
Yeah, I think what was interesting was a lot of people knew about this or surmised it and had kept it under wraps until that game went final, and then everybody was coming out on Twitter and saying, well, I guess it'll be another week till Kerry comes back to Ohio State. So the cat is out of the bag in a lot of respects, with a lot of respected people tweeting that out, that was the direction that Ryan Day wanted to go, and he will be stalled on that for 1 week. He has no control over the NFL playoffs, believe it or not, and wow, what a stunning victory for Mike Vrabel. I mean, the pupil comes back to beat the teacher. You had to think, with how smug that hoodie is, that when the Titans hired him out, he had only been with Bill O'Brien with the Texans for a couple of years, that hoodie had to be like, whoa, there's one we won't have to worry about. And he inherited kind of a playoff roster there with Tennessee. They'd been to the playoffs, and the second year, here you go, into Foxborough, nobody gave him a shot, and New England's problems from all season kind of came home to roost. That they were 12-4, but it wasn't a pretty 12-4. They were kind of scuffling most of the way, and that was borne out. And Tennessee went in there and got the win, and good for them. And I don't look at this as any big problem for Ohio State, because you are still in a dead period until probably Friday, or probably till the middle of the following week, because you have the championship game as a Monday, and then they probably have the Football Coaches Association convention after that. And so I don't think anybody is welcoming guys for visits until a week from Friday. And obviously with Ohio State 24 signees, there's not a whole lot that needs to be determined there. Cameron Martinez, get him hooked up with whoever's taking over in the secondary and kind of go from there. But, I don't worry too much about that. I think I did a preliminary count, Dave. They're still like 4 or 5 over on scholarships. One, because Jonathan Cooper and Justin Hilliard are coming back, and, Shaun Wade didn't leave. So, Ryan Day's got some roster management issues, I think, first and foremost. But the good news for him is, I think our friend Pat Murphy was working on a gallery of guys who might be interested in transferring or whatever. And there's a little bit of fat on that roster that they could trim to to get it down to 85, even if they were able to take Jahmyr Gibbs, the running back, or whoever, here on the aftermarket. So kind of meandering there, starting with Kerry Coombs and then coming back around to roster management. But a lot of moving parts and pieces right now for Ryan Day, and I don't see any negatives in it really at all.
That's what we do here on the Bucknuts Morning 5. We meander, we opine, we just BS in general. Last thing, let's give our very early expectations for the 2020 Buckeyes. I think the expectations don't really change. I think they're going to be a top 5 team to begin the season. Year 2, the Justin Fields era on offense is going to be exciting. You have to think he's going to be better as a second-year starter, and he was tremendous this past season. And getting 3 starting offensive linemen back is absolutely huge. Wide receiving core will be young other than Chris Olave, but extremely exciting. Running back, a little bit of a question mark. I think people are writing off Master Teague now all of a sudden after everybody loved Master Teague. Now everybody hates Master Teague. Everybody just chill. Master Teague will be just fine. We'll see some other running backs that will step up. But defense with Wade coming back, I think they're going to have a total of maybe 5 starters total back on defense now. Steve Helwagen, your very, 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 very way too early expectations for the 2020 Buckeyes.
I have not studied too deep all across the country, but I'm going to install Clemson probably at number 1 just because Lawrence is coming back. And when they did meet on the field, they beat Ohio State. That's just the cold, hard fact of the matter. And I don't know how many seniors and juniors they're going to lose. But as of right now, I would put them number 1. I don't think LSU, without Joe Burrow, is going to be considered that highly. In fact, I think Alabama would return to the top spot in the West. But for Ohio State, I think they're top 3. I think they're right there. Justin Fields puts them top 3 going into next season. I don't think there's any doubt about that. They've got so many guys coming back on both sides of the ball. As we said, okay, it may not be a starter, but it's a guy who did play, several hundred plays this year and has experience. I mean, you've got a roster of guys, I think, that would be hungry to come in and take over. Nicholas Petit-Frere, tackle. He was supposed to play quite a bit. Didn't really work out. Is he ready to go now? Guess we'll find out. So, yeah, I guess there's a lot of guys like that. To me, Teague has got to get in the Marotti program and gain a step. That's got to happen. I mean, that's got to be job 1. Is if he's 4'6", 4'7", got to get him down to 4'5". I just think that's what he's got to be. So, and if he is, he's going to be a monster. He could be a monster because it's going to take a lot of guys to bring him down if he's got a head of steam rolling. And so, to me, I think he's got the potential to be a great back, and I still want to see what Chambers and Crowley have to offer. Defensively, Clemson found them. Clemson found the linebacker core, the quarterback run, the 2 screens, not just 1, the 2 screens, the ATN or whatever you call them, dump-offs for touchdowns. Those linebackers were good enough to win the Big Ten. You could beat Penn State. You could beat Michigan State. You could beat Nebraska. You could beat Wisconsin twice. But you could not beat Clemson. And I think they got some soul-searching to do there. Is this time for Taraja Mitchell, Kevon Pope, Dallas Gant to get a look and, steal some reps from those guys who played quite a bit at linebacker? I don't know. I'm not sure they're good enough to win the national championship with that group. And, that's just me talking. I don't know. But Clemson found them. We know that. So, interested to see where it goes. 4th Big Ten championship in a row is the goal, the first goal, and go from there. But tough schedule at Oregon. That's going to be tough. I believe it rotates now back to Happy Valley, October 24th. Already some speculation on our boards. Will that be the traditional whiteout? And Fox would be in World Series coverage at that point.
Let me answer the question there. Yeah. Yes, it will be a whiteout. Every time Ohio State plays Penn State, it's a whiteout now.
Well, I haven't looked at the schedule, But what my initial blush is with Michigan not hosting Notre Dame is that's not going to be ESPN's second pick. You know what I mean? Like, if ESPN had second pick of all the games all season, and that game's not on the schedule, the obvious second pick is Ohio State at Penn State. So I think that falls to ESPN ABC, and I think they put that on at 8 o'clock. But I need to look at the schedule because that's what it kind of comes down to. I think they took Notre Dame at Michigan with the number 2 pick last year, and then Fox reverted back and had Penn State at Ohio State. So, yeah, it is what it is. But, again, so much to happen here in the off season. Guys coming and going, and, I think another wide play of this offseason is Fields. Do they have him undergo a procedure to get that cleaned up? Does that rule him out for the spring? All these other things, but he's going to have Garrett Wilson. He's going to have Chris Olave, and they're going to average better than 40 points a game. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And it's just going to be the defense. Can they hold teams down? And this year they did for the most part, and we'll see next year if they can do it.
Great stuff as always from Steve Helwagen. I really appreciate it, Steve, and really appreciate all the listeners out there for tuning into the show. Hope everyone has a great day. Let's hear that Buckeye swag, best damn band in the land.